I backed out of the townhouse we were buying exactly 3 weeks before closing. The realtor stared at the release form, then up at me. "Nora, are you absolutely sure? If you walk away right now, you lose a massive chunk of your earnest money." "I know." "You don't want to wait until Lucas gets back from Tahoe to discuss this?" I uncapped my pen and signed my name on the dotted line. "Lucas is still in Lake Tahoe, but the company retreat ended yesterday." Her pen stopped moving. I looked down at the glossy rendering of the townhouse on the table, the custom kitchen I had meticulously designed, the cream-colored living room wall I had spent 2 agonizing weekends choosing, the home we were supposed to move into after our wedding. Then, I said the part that still didn't sound real out loud. He stayed because his ex-girlfriend came up for the weekend. The realtor said absolutely nothing. I almost laughed. What could she say? That maybe I had misunderstood? I had spent 5 years misunderstanding. Every January, Lucas told me his company's Tahoe retreat ran into the weekend. Every January, he stayed until Sunday night. And 3 nights earlier, I found out the official corporate event had always ended on Friday afternoon. Emma arrived Friday night. Every year. Same luxury hotel, same restaurant, same snow-covered overlook, same woman. 5 winters, 5 work trips. 5 years of me begging him to take me somewhere just because he wanted to be there with me. And 5 years of him giving me the exact same answer. Next time. By the time Lucas drove home from Tahoe that Sunday, I had already started pulling myself out of our future like a surgeon extracting a tumor. He just didn't know it yet. The worst part wasn't that I couldn't definitively prove he had slept with her. There was no messy hotel bed selfie, no explicit text message, nothing clean enough to hold up in his face and scream, "That's cheating." In some ways, that was infinitely harder. Because what I found was 5 years of Lucas giving another woman every single version of himself he had convinced me didn't exist. The romantic version, the thoughtful version, the version who planned ahead, took beautiful photographs, remembered birthdays, and actually looked forward to weekends. I had built our entire relationship around the lie that Lucas simply wasn't made that way. We lived in the East Bay. We had been together for 5 years, engaged for 11 months. Lucas was calm, practical, and almost impossible to rattle. He wasn't the kind of man who filled a room. He was the kind of man people called when the room caught fire. During our 2nd year together, my dad had an emergency heart procedure. I panicked so badly I couldn't drive. Lucas walked out of a board meeting, picked me up, and took me to the airport. When I had a 103-degree fever, he carried me down 2 flights of stairs to urgent care at 2 a.m. He fixed my brakes before they became dangerous. He stocked the fridge when I worked late. Those were the cold, hard facts I used as a shield whenever his emotional unavailability hurt me. Yes, he forgot my birthday once, but he sat with me in urgent care. Yes, he refused to help plan the wedding, but he spent 6 months analyzing our mortgage rates. When my friends asked if he was a little emotionally dead, I violently defended him. Lucas isn't sentimental. Lucas is practical. I translated every single one of my disappointments into a quirky personality trait, and because he was dependable in a crisis, I convinced myself I was immature for wanting romance. The Tahoe weekends began during our 1st year together. "The work part will be over Friday, right?" I had asked back then. "I could drive up. We could ski Saturday." Lucas had laughed, kissing my forehead. "You've never skied. You'd hate it. Next year. I'll take you when I can actually enjoy it with you." The second year, he said quarter end was brutal. The fourth year, I finally stopped asking. This year, with our wedding less than 2 months away, he packed his SUV and kissed me at the door. Last Tahoe retreat before I'm a married man. "At least come to the final venue walkthrough when you get back," I pleaded. He grinned. "Next time they schedule one." Next time. I rolled my eyes and kissed him goodbye. That night, I started clearing out a storage closet because we were supposed to move. At the bottom of a plastic bin, I found an old DSLR camera Lucas had used in college. The battery was almost dead, but the screen flickered to life. I hit the playback button. The first picture was snow. The second was Lake Tahoe. The third was Emma. I knew her immediately. She had grown up 3 streets from Lucas. They had dated as teenagers. Lucas always described it as a childhood mistake. "We know way too much about each other. It would never work," he used to joke. I was proud of believing them. I thought it meant I was secure, mature, not one of those hysterical women who treated every female friend as competition. The first photo was dated 5 years ago. Emma in a red ski jacket, laughing at the camera, laughing at Lucas. Then, the sickening pattern emerged. Thursday and Friday photos were exactly what Lucas had told me. Corporate name badges, conference rooms, co-workers. But Friday evening, Emma appeared. 4 years ago, same lodge. 3 years ago, same restaurant. 2 years ago, same overlook. 5 winters. It wasn't random. It was a tradition. A secret weekend they repeated every single year, while I sat at home believing my fiancé was entertaining clients. But it wasn't just that she was there. It was how he captured her. He crouched low to get the frozen lake perfectly behind her. He waited for her to turn into the golden hour light. He framed her beautifully through frosted cabin windows. There was one candid photo of Emma tying a ski boot that looked like a high-end travel advertisement. A year ago, I had handed Lucas my phone at a friend's wedding at sunset. "Can you take one picture of me?" I asked. He snapped it blindly. My eyes were closed. A waiter was walking through the frame. "Can you do one more?" I begged. He had already opened Slack on his phone. "It's fine, Nora. You look fine." I stared at the glowing camera screen in my dark closet, my hands violently shaking. Lucas knew how to wait for the light. He knew how to make a woman look beautiful. He knew how to preserve a moment. He just didn't want to do it for me. I put the camera down on the closet floor. My hands had stopped shaking, replaced by a terrifying, surgical calmness. I opened our shared laptop. The files weren't even hidden. Tahoe 2022, Tahoe 2023, Tahoe 2024. But the photos weren't the nail in the coffin. The hotel booking confirmations were. Lucas had always told me his company paid for the room through Friday, and he just stayed on for weekend networking. But the receipts proved that every single year, he personally paid to extend the exact same luxury suite through Sunday. He never technically lied about going to Tahoe for work. He simply let me believe the work lasted all weekend. My phone buzzed on the floor. A text from Lucas. A photo of a cup of hot chocolate and a deer-shaped cookie. "Official stuff is finally over. I'm dead." My stomach turned. In the camera roll, Emma had been sitting in front of the exact same fireplace, holding that exact same cup 3 years ago. I typed back, "If the official stuff is done, are you coming home tomorrow?" 3 agonizing minutes passed. The typing bubble appeared, stopped, and appeared again. Still have weekend plans. Sunday like usual. "Who are the weekend plans with?" I asked. "People from work and some friends. Is Emma there?" He didn't text back. At 11 p.m., my phone rang. A FaceTime call. I answered. Lucas was standing in a brightly lit hotel hallway, wearing a gray cashmere sweater. He looked perfectly relaxed. "You okay?" he asked. "Fine. How's the house?" "Fine. Painter's done?" "Almost. You spent way too much time on that wall." "It's cream, Nora. It'll all look the same once the furniture is in." I stared at him through the screen. That wall had taken me 2 weekends of agonizing over swatches. Lucas had never once bothered to look at them. "It matters to me," I said. He shrugged dismissively. "Then keep the cream." He was about to hang up when a woman's voice echoed loudly from somewhere behind him. "Lukey, the car's here." My entire body went ice cold. Lukey? I had known this man for 5 years. I had never heard a single living soul call him that. Lucas froze, then turned his head. "Coming." His eyes came back to the screen. The relaxed posture vanished. "Emma's there," I stated. It wasn't a question. "Yeah," he said, trying to sound casual. "Since when?" "She drove up, after the retreat." "Does she do that every year, Lucas?" His expression hardened. "Nora, what is this? Just answer the question." "Emma likes skiing. A few of us usually stay." "You never told me." "Because it's not a secret." I almost laughed at the sheer audacity. "If it's not a secret, why did I think you were working all weekend for 5 straight years?" "You assumed that." There it was. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I should have told you." You assumed that. He was gaslighting me in real time. "Okay," I said quietly. He visibly relaxed, thinking he had won the negotiation. "Don't do this to yourself before the wedding, Nora. Don't turn nothing into something." He smiled his dependable, practical smile. "I'll bring you something back." I hung up the phone. The walls of the apartment suddenly felt like they were closing in. I walked to the front hallway just to get some air and blindly opened the coat closet. That was when I saw them. Tucked neatly behind Lucas's heavy hiking boots were a pair of white canvas sneakers, size 6. I wear an 8. For one desperate second, I thought they might belong to his sister. Then, I picked one up. A folded yellow sticky note was tucked deep inside the toe. "Lukey, leaving these here for next Tahoe. The other pair destroyed my feet. Don't let me forget them again. E." I read it twice. Then a third time. Next Tahoe. Not maybe, not if. Next. Like it was a permanent fixture on his calendar. Like my apartment, the home I meticulously decorated was nothing but a free storage unit for her annual romantic getaway with my fiancé. I sat on the entryway bench with Emma's shoe in my lap and I finally cried. Not because of the shoe, because of the terrifying comfort of it. She had been in my home without me. She was comfortable enough to leave things here, comfortable enough to use an intimate nickname I didn't even know existed. And Lucas had never once thought I deserved to know. The next morning, I didn't yell. I didn't confront him. I emailed a corporate recruiter in Portland who had tried to poach me 6 months ago, a job I had turned down because Lucas didn't want to leave the Bay Area. "If that senior role is still open," I typed, "I am ready to accept." Sunday night, the front door unlocked. Lucas rolled his suitcase inside, looking rested and happy. He kissed my cheek like a loyal husband and handed me a little paper bag. "Got you something," he smiled. I reached inside. It was a cheap wooden magnet shaped like a snowy mountain. "Thanks." "Emma picked it," he said casually, taking off his boots. "She said the other one looked cheap." For 5 years, Lucas had brought me little Tahoe souvenirs. I used to line them up in the fridge and think, he thought of me. Now I realized his ex-girlfriend had been standing right next to him every single time. This year, she had literally chosen the consolation prize he brought home to his fiancée. He shrugged off his heavy winter coat. As he tossed it over the chair, a small, sleek black bag slipped from the pocket and hit the hardwood floor. It was a bag from a high-end jewelry store. I bent down and picked it up before he could. Did Emma pick this out for me, too? He lunged for it, panic flashing in his eyes. "No, give that back." "Who is it for, Lucas?" He swallowed hard. "It's for Emma. It's her birthday." "What did you get her?" I asked, holding the high-end jewelry bag out of his reach. "A necklace," Lucas sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "You picked it out at the hotel gift shop?" "No, it's custom. I ordered it a couple of months ago." I stared at him, letting the silence ring in my ears. A couple of months? Last March, Lucas had completely forgotten my birthday. He came home at 10 p.m., saw the small cake I had baked for myself on the counter, and froze. He blamed work, promised to make it up to me, and then went golfing that weekend. I had defended him to my friends. Lucas isn't a birthday person. He's just practical. But he wasn't. He was perfectly capable of planning. He could remember details. He could meticulously design custom jewelry 60 days in advance. He just had categories. Things worth doing for Emma, and things Nora would just have to understand. "Do you honestly put more effort into Emma than you put into me?" I asked. Lucas dropped his keys on the counter. "What happened now? She's been my friend forever." "I saw your old camera, Lucas. I saw the 5 years of photos. I know you weren't working all weekend." His jaw tightened. "We had plans after the conference ended. With friends." "And you never once thought to say, 'Hey, my ex-girlfriend comes up every single year and we spend the weekend together'?" "You're making it sound dirty because you're upset." "What about the shoes?" I snapped. That stopped him cold. "What shoes?" "The white canvas sneakers tucked behind your boots. The ones with the sticky note for Lukey about your next secret Tahoe trip." His face hardened. "She left them here months ago when we hosted that game night. You were visiting your parents. So she came into my home while I was gone, left her shoes in my closet for your next annual getaway. And do you think that's normal?" I stepped closer. "Why does she call you Lukey?" It's just a childhood nickname, Nora, he yelled, finally losing his cool. This is getting ridiculous. Is it? Yes! His voice echoed in the kitchen. Then he delivered the kill shot. I am marrying you, Nora. Isn't that enough? I stared at him. He actually meant it. That was the most terrifying part. To Lucas, the wedding ring was the ultimate trump card. I was getting the mortgage, the vows, and the practical future. So what right did I have to complain if Emma got the romantic weekends? If Emma got the beautiful photographs? If Emma got the custom jewelry? And the access to a version of him I wasn't allowed to touch? I was the practical choice. Therefore, I had no right to demand the romance. You're right, I said, my voice eerily calm. It's enough. His shoulders immediately dropped in relief. He thought he had won. The next day, we went to his mother's house for Sunday dinner. The absolute first thing she said when I walked through the door was, Nora, which wedding favors did you choose from Emma's list? I stopped in the doorway. What list? His mother blinked, pulling out her iPad. She didn't send them? Emma found these custom candles that fit your theme perfectly. I slowly turned to Lucas. You sent Emma our wedding mood board? He poured himself a cup of coffee, completely unbothered. She asked what we were doing. Emma's good at this stuff. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? By Friday night, I had successfully secured my new job in Portland. That same evening, we met several of Lucas's college friends for dinner at a crowded restaurant. Emma was already sitting at the table. She was wearing the necklace. Of course she was. It was a delicate custom gold pendant resting perfectly at her throat. One of the women across the table gasped, Emma, that is gorgeous. Birthday present? Emma smiled, touching the gold. Yeah. From who? Lucas took a sip of his beer. Me. The entire table went dead quiet. Not dramatically, just enough to make the air thick. A guy sitting across from us raised his eyebrows. Damn, Luke. Custom jewelry for the ex? Emma laughed it off seamlessly. Ancient history, but he still knows what I like. She said it lightly, but I watched Lucas smile. A proud, genuine smile. That smile hurt 10 times more than the necklace. The woman across the table looked at me, visibly uncomfortable. Okay, now I have to ask, what did he get you, Nora? Before I could open my mouth, Lucas answered for me. Nora doesn't care about stuff like that. I felt every single person at the table hear it. Nora doesn't care. He had weaponized my low maintenance and turned my neglect into a personality trait. Someone desperately tried to change the subject to skiing. A man I barely knew looked at me and said, Nora, you must be a pro if you survived Tahoe with Luke every year. I've never been to Tahoe, I said flatly. The man blinked. What? I don't ski. Lucas quickly cut in. She hates the cold. I slowly turned my head and looked at my fiancé. When did I ever say that? He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Emma smiled awkwardly. He probably mixed you up with somebody else. Then she casually drove the final nail into the coffin. Actually, Tahoe is kind of our thing. It has been forever. Our thing. I looked at Lucas. He just stared down at his drink. For 5 years, I had begged to go. For 5 years, he had said, "Next time." And apparently, his entire friend group already knew Tahoe belonged to them. 10 minutes later, I got up to use the restroom. Emma followed me into the narrow hallway. "Nora," she said, touching my arm. "I really hope tonight didn't feel weird." I looked at her hand until she removed it. "Luke and I have a lot of old traditions," she continued, playing the innocent peacemaker. "Like Tahoe. I always assumed he told you I came up after his conference." "He didn't." She glanced away, looking highly uncomfortable. Just then, my phone lit up in my hand. Our interior designer had sent a mock-up of our new townhouse living room. Emma looked down at my screen and smiled. "Oh, you kept the cream wall." I slowly lifted my eyes. "How do you know about the wall color?" She froze for half a second. "Lucas showed me the floor plans. He asked what I thought." I could barely breathe. The man who told me, "Whatever you like," when I agonized over paint swatches, actually had opinions. He just preferred discussing them with his ex. "What did you think?" I asked quietly. She gave a small, nervous laugh. I told him warm gray, and he agreed. The hallway suddenly felt violently suffocating. Emma looked at me with wide, apologetic eyes. "Nora, I'm really not trying to come between you two." I looked at the woman who had already occupied every corner of my fiancé's heart. "No," I said, my voice completely dead. "You don't have to." On the quiet drive home, Lucas finally noticed the suffocating silence. "What's wrong?" he asked, keeping his eyes on the road. "Nothing." "Is this still about the necklace?" "No." "Then what?" "Emma said Tahoe is your thing." He sighed, sounding exhausted by my sudden paranoia. "That's just how she talks, Nora. It doesn't mean anything." She also knew about the living room wall, Lucas. He exhaled sharply. "I asked her opinion once. Why is that a crime?" "Because you never asked mine. You just blindly agreed with whatever I picked." "Because you told me you didn't care," he shot back. "It's just paint." I let out a short, hollow laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was so terrifyingly predictable. Of course. It's just paint. What does that mean? It means you're right, Lucas. It's not about the paint. He drove the rest of the way in silence, completely convinced I was just being dramatic. 3 days later, the company in Portland officially offered me the job. Higher salary, bigger team. I accepted immediately. The next morning, I gave notice at my current firm. Then, I methodically started canceling my wedding. I called the venue, the photographer, and the florist. Any contract in my name, I brutally terminated and paid the cancellation fees out of my own pocket. Anything requiring Lucas's signature, I organized into a neat pile on his desk. The townhouse release was already moving through escrow. I separated my direct deposits and ruthlessly documented every shared expense down to the penny. I didn't touch a dime of his money. I didn't key his car. I didn't burn his clothes. I just surgically removed myself from his future. And the absolute most psychotic part of it all? While I was doing it, Lucas still thought we were perfectly fine. One night, he saved a plate of dinner for me in the fridge. The next morning, he took my car to the mechanic because a maintenance light came on. He was still playing the exact version of himself I had used to justify staying for 5 years. Responsible, helpful, reliable. I finally understood that reliability had just become his camouflage. A man can faithfully change your oil and still entirely neglect your heart. A man can sit beside you in urgent care and still build a private, romantic, emotional life with another woman. A man can love you and still believe your unhappiness is perfectly acceptable simply because you have never made it his problem. Saturday afternoon, Lucas walked into the bedroom wearing a clean shirt. I was kneeling on the floor, taping a cardboard box shut. "Emma's moving this weekend," he announced casually. I told her I'd help. I pressed the packing tape down flat. "Okay." He nodded toward the box. "What's all that? Old stuff? Donating?" "Some of it." He grabbed his keys off the dresser. "We'll probably get dinner after. Don't wait up." "I won't." He stopped at the bedroom door and looked back at me. "Are you still upset about the dinner?" "No." "Really?" "Really." He smiled his dependable smile. "I knew you weren't the kind of person who'd stay mad over something stupid like this." Then, he left. I stood in the center of the apartment as the front door clicked shut. That single sentence explained our entire relationship. Lucas thought I was easygoing. What I had actually been was silenced. He thought nothing hurt me very badly. What I had actually done was heal privately in the dark, just so he would never have to feel uncomfortable. By 9 p.m. that night, my final box was loaded into my car. I walked back inside, took off my diamond engagement ring, and placed it dead center on the dining room table. Next to it, I left the canceled townhouse paperwork, the terminated wedding vendor contracts, and a spreadsheet of our remaining shared expenses. I wrote one single note on a Post-it. "You always said there would be a next time. There isn't one now." At 11:40 p.m., I was sitting at the airport terminal when Lucas finally called. I let it ring. He called again, then again. Then, the frantic text messages started pouring in. "Where are you? What the hell are these papers? Why is the house being canceled? Did you cancel the wedding venue? Nora, answer me!" And finally, the text he thought would solve the mystery. "Is this seriously because of Emma?" I stared at the glowing screen for a long time. Then, I typed one word. No. His call came through instantly. This time, I answered. "What the hell are you doing?" he yelled, his voice laced with pure panic. "You canceled the house? The wedding?" "Yes." "Why would you do that without talking to me?" I almost laughed. "Because I talked to you for 5 years, Lucas." "What does that even mean?" Lucas shouted into the phone, the panic finally cracking his practical armor. "It means I begged you to travel with me," I said, my voice eerily calm against his chaos. "I asked you to remember my birthday. I asked you to care about our wedding. I asked you to take just one good picture of me. I work, Nora. That's not fair. Every single time you told me, next time. That is not a reason to destroy our entire life. Emma never had to wait for next time, Lucas. He inhaled sharply, his voice dropping into a desperate, defensive growl. There is nothing going on with Emma. I don't care if you slept with her, I said. He went completely, stunningly silent. I really don't, I repeated, and I meant it. This isn't about cheating. Then what is this? It's about finding out you weren't actually bad at romance. You weren't too practical to plan trips. You weren't too busy to design custom birthday gifts. You weren't bad at taking pictures. You just didn't want to do those things with me. My boarding group was called over the airport intercom. I stood up, grabbing my carry-on. That is insane, Lucas pleaded. I am marrying you. I chose you. No, Lucas. My voice finally cracked. You chose me for the life you wanted to build. I got the mortgage, the spreadsheets, and the practical future. She got every single thing you were actually excited about. That is not true. She got Tahoe every year. She got the beautiful photographs. She got birthday gifts you planned months in advance. She got your mother. Nora. She left her shoes in our home for your next secret weekend. It wasn't secret, he yelled. Then why didn't I know? Silence. The deafening, guilty silence of a man who finally realized he was cornered. You honestly thought that giving me a wedding ring meant you could give her every other piece of yourself, and I would just be grateful? I said. That's not what I thought, he whispered. Then tell me what you thought. Nothing. Fine, Lucas finally said, his voice breaking. I won't go to Tahoe with her anymore. I'll tell my mom to stop involving her. We can travel. I'll take you anywhere you want, Nora. He stopped. You're fixing Emma, I said quietly. What? You're fixing Tahoe, the necklace, your mother. You're offering to fix everything now. But what else am I supposed to fix, Lucas? What do you mean? How do I fix the part where I had to literally pack up my life and leave before you actually cared enough to listen? His breathing hitched. I cared. You cared enough to assume I would never leave. Nora, please, come home. We need to talk face to face. No more next times, Lucas. I hung up the phone. I turned it off, handed my ticket to the gate agent, and walked onto the plane. The next morning, Lucas finally understood the surgical precision of my exit. He told me later that, at first, he assumed I had just gone to a friend's house to make a dramatic point. But then he opened my closet, half empty. My bathroom drawers cleared out, my books gone, my work shoes gone. My employer already knew I was leaving. The realtor knew, the venue knew, the florist knew, the photographer knew. Every single person connected to my future knew my life had changed. Except my fiancé. His mother called him furious. What do we tell the family? What about the deposits? How could Nora do this? For the first time in his life, Lucas didn't know how to defend himself, because there was no single, explosive confession, no one obvious betrayal he could isolate and apologize for. There were simply 5 years of choices, and that was infinitely harder to explain. He also went to see Emma. I only know the parts he admitted to me later. Apparently, Emma was genuinely shocked when she realized I had never known she joined him in Tahoe after the company retreat. "I thought she knew," she told him. Lucas admitted he had never told her that. "You never told me she didn't know," Emma replied defensively. She gave the custom necklace back, and then she delivered the final blow. The one sentence Lucas repeated to me almost word for word. "I never asked you to choose me over her, Luke. You just kept doing it." Emma was not innocent. She had loved crossing boundaries. She had loved being the special one. But Lucas was the one who had promised me a future. Lucas was the one who had spent 5 years making a massive, comfortable space for his ex-girlfriend, while constantly asking his fiancée to make herself smaller. For the next 2 weeks, he bombed my phone with desperate messages. "I won't go to Tahoe with Emma again. We can buy a different house. I'll move to Portland with you. I'll plan your birthdays. I'll do this right." I didn't answer a single one, because every message was just an answer to a question I had stopped asking years ago. If he had planned just one birthday, I would have bragged about it for months. If he had cared enough to disagree with me about a paint color, I would have felt like we were building a home together. Now, he was offering me the absolute best version of his love, but only because he was terrified. I didn't want a love that only showed up after I proved I was capable of walking away. 4 weeks later, I started my new job in Portland. My apartment was tiny. My kitchen barely fit one person. I loved the quiet, but independence wasn't always a victory lap. Some nights, I missed Lucas so much, I hated myself for it. I found one of his old sweatshirts in an unpacked box and sat on the bathroom floor crying into it. I missed the man who drove me to the airport when my dad was sick. I missed the familiar shape of his body sleeping beside me. But leaving someone doesn't erase the good things they did. It just means the good things were no longer enough to make the bad ones survivable. A little over a month after I moved, my phone lit up with a text. "I'm in Portland. I know I don't have the right to just show up. If you don't want to see me, I'll leave tonight." I stared at the message for 10 minutes. Then, I texted him the name of a coffee shop in the Pearl District. 20 minutes later, he walked in. He looked completely wrecked. He was thinner, his beard uneven. For the first time in 5 years, the practical, unshakable Lucas Cole looked like a man who had completely run out of solutions. We sat across from each other. He didn't try to touch me. "I'm not talking to Emma anymore," he said, his voice desperate. "I mean it, Nora. I told my mom everything. I checked with work. I can be remote part of the month. The house doesn't matter. We can buy a new one. We don't need a big wedding." I sat in silence. "You want to travel? We'll travel." His voice shook. "You want birthdays? I'll plan them. You want pictures? I'll take 1,000. "Lucas." He stopped. I didn't feel tempted. I just felt profoundly sad. 5 years earlier, this exact conversation would have made me feel like the luckiest woman alive. Now, it just sounded like a desperate list of items he was willing to purchase because he had finally learned the agonizing price of neglecting them. "Do you know what the absolute worst part is?" I asked quietly. He shook his head. "It's not Tahoe. It's not Emma. It's not even the necklace or the shoes." "Then what is it? I'm sitting here, offering you every single thing you ever asked for." "That means you heard me," I whispered. He stared at me, frozen. "You heard me every single time, Lucas," I said, the truth finally settling between us. "Nora, I didn't understand how serious it was," he choked out, his eyes filling with tears. "Exactly. You didn't have to understand. You forgot my birthday, and I stayed. You skipped trips, and I stayed. You let Emma into our house, our wedding, and your family, and I stayed. You gave her the exact version of yourself I kept begging for, and I stayed." I swallowed the lump in my throat. Because every time I was hurt, I swallowed it and handled it for both of us. So of course you thought we were perfectly fine. A single tear rolled down his face. "I can change, Nora." "I know. I believe you." He looked up so fast, a flash of pure hope in his eyes. I hated that I had to kill it. "I think you will change," I told him honestly. "I think you'll remember birthdays now. I think you'll notice sooner when the person beside you is begging to matter. I think you are going to be a phenomenal partner to whoever comes next." "Then why can't we?" "Because I don't want to be the woman you had to lose before you figured out how to love her." He stopped breathing. Rain streaked the coffee shop window, blurring the city outside. Finally, Lucas whispered, "What am I supposed to do?" For 5 years, I had answered every practical question for him. Where we should live, what color to paint the walls, what venue to book, how to make our life work. That day, I finally let him have a problem I wasn't going to fix. "Keep living," I said, standing up. "So will I." He stood slowly. At the door, he turned back one last time. "I really did love you, Nora. I meant it." "I know." He did love me. But that wasn't the lesson. The lesson was that love can absolutely coexist with selfishness, carelessness, and entitlement. A man can love you and still fundamentally believe you will accept less forever. That winter, a few coworkers invited me on a ski trip to Banff. My first instinct was to politely decline. Then, I realized I had absolutely no reason to say no. So I went. The lake was frozen solid. The mountains looked unreal against the crisp blue sky. A coworker offered to take my picture. I stood near the edge of the lake and smiled. She snapped the photo, then looked down at her screen and frowned. "Wait, the lighting is awful on this one," she said, raising her phone again. "Let me take one more." I almost laughed. For some reason, that tiny passing sentence hit harder than anything Lucas had said in Portland. I remembered standing at a wedding years earlier, begging Lucas for a second photo, only for him to say, "It's fine. You look fine." For years, I thought becoming an adult meant learning not to care about the little things. Birthdays, pictures, trips. Who remembers what you said? Who makes room for you? Who thinks something is important simply because it is important to you? I was wrong. Those aren't the little things. They are the entire relationship. My coworker lifted her camera again. Ready? I smiled, turning perfectly into the light. Yeah. She took another picture. And this time, I didn't accept good enough. I don't anymore.